Well, hello everyone. Um, I'm glad you're all here, but as usual, I want to make sure that you can hear me. So if anyone can post in the chat, I'm looking at my chat here, I'm looking at my feedback here. I've got the stream playing here to make sure that everything's okay. I've got monitors and all that. So if anyone could be kind enough to post if you can hear me. Excellent, you can hear me. So it's happened in the past where I was talking to nobody because no one could hear me and people were screaming in the chat. So I'm making sure everything is good this time. I hope you're all well. Happy August, 1st of August today, and welcome to another Ask the Trainer. And we're going to deal with various interesting questions we've had in our spreadsheet. But let's start with some housekeeping here. And let me bring this up. Again, as usual, when it comes to producing, I always mess things up, but hey, who cares? Part of the fun. So, and I'll be posting also in the chat various links. I'm here alone, so it will take me a couple of seconds to navigate around the maelstrom of monitors and windows and all that. So first of all, if you want to get to this page here, use this link, which I'm going to post right now in the comments. And there you go. And it's coming up. There you go. So this page tells you what events are happening and has links to all these pages. Where you can get your free t-shirt. I'll give you the code in a second. For the month of August, it has changed. It's not the same as we had on Monday. And for the month of July, the Training Team YouTube channel, where all these shows, although you watch them live on Maxon Training Team YouTube channel and the Maxon YouTube channel, they're only hosted with timestamps and comments kindly provided by Dr. Sassy. The hosting is only on the Training Team YouTube channel. And of course, you can go to Cineversity and watch a lot of tutorials. Now, there is something about Cineversity. There have been some changes. So what I'd like you to do, and I'm going to paste a link. I'm going to paste a link, or let me find that link for you. I just need to find it somewhere because and that link is about this form. We are migrating tutorials from the old Cineversity to the new one. And if you want any tutorials to be prioritized, we do have a list. Please go and fill in this form so we know what's best to prioritize. And of course, I was looking in the wrong thread for the link, and that's what happens with me. I look in wrong places. If you give me a second, I promise today is a day that's going to be worth it. I think that everyone's going to learn at least three things. There we go. So let me just copy this link. I'm going to paste it here just so that you know this is the link I'm going to paste in the chat. And it brings you this form and you answer it. And this way we know which tutorials can be prioritized. So there you go. It's in the chat. So please copy and paste that. And yeah, so that we can get more and more tutorials from the old University into the new one. Don't ask me why and how and all that. I do not know exactly what's going on, but there's a huge effort going on behind the scenes to get all the tutorials over to the new Cineversity, at least the ones that are technologically relevant. Now, if you do want to get your t-shirt, the code for the month of August is House of Polygons. I think that's because of some sort of series on TV. I don't watch TV. And use that. And for anything you want, just go to this first page and click on the appropriate link. Get your t-shirt is this one. And what else do we need to show here? Oh, yeah. And there's a QR code, which I'm going to bring up in a second. This one over here. Take a screenshot of that so that you can go directly to this page over here. And it's going to go in 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye. And having said that, again, don't forget to go to Maxon Training Team channel and watch these tutorials recorded with the appropriate timestamps. And go and enjoy our content on the Maxon YouTube channel and on the Maxon ZBrush YouTube channel. There's amazing content here for you to watch. And let me, what do I need to do now? Let me bring this down. Let me show my face, at least down here in the corner. And please go and follow through the Maxon YouTube channel the live shows from SIGGRAPH, which is taking place. We have some amazing artists and people talking about our products. And I caught a few snippets yesterday, and it's extremely interesting. Now, um, let's start with some questions. I have, when you fill that form, I get a spreadsheet. And we go through that spreadsheet, and things we think are relevant and can fit in our segment will be answered. So I'm looking at my list here, going to the first one, which appears to be a quite interesting one. Let me get rid of my face. So a user asks, it's a long question, it won't fit up there. So I am going to read it for you. I think for reading, it's better to have a face as well. So I'm attempting to replicate a melting effect that I achieved using X particles. To achieve this effect, I first fill an object with particles and I assign a heat value to each particle. As the heat passes a threshold, the particles move to another group, and that group has a liquid simulation. Now, just right off the bat, we don't have fluid simulations other than gaseous fluids with the Pyro system. So, unless you can abuse that, what I can show you, because the questions are number one, can we fill an object with native C4D particles? The answer is yes. I'm going to show you how. Number two, can we assign a value to a user variable and manipulate that value using fields? We can't, we don't have custom variables currently, but there are ways to piggyback and let's say um, hijack other parameters and use them in various ways. I'm going to show you what this looks like and what this means. And actually, um, here's the scene file. And let me just do this again. If I press play here, you will see that um, we're getting a heat propagating and then the heat cools down. And the changes of colors is different groups of particles. We have the initial one, and I'm going to tell you how to do that. So um, basically, those are the questions. And although we can't do exactly what the specific user is requesting, propagating values and hijacking another value to do that is an interesting thing you can do. And I'm going to set this up from scratch. And if I do any mistakes, I can go back and check it out. So I'm going to bring this over here so I can have them tabs right click, you can drag this left or right, just in case you didn't know. So let's begin with we can create a basic emitter, or we can have an object and use a volume emission. So I prefer to use a basic emitter just for this because it's easier to set things up. So I'm going to use a cube, and I'm going to elongate it a bit. So this is the volume I'm going to fill. Again, you can use an object, and you can use a mesh emitter, and you can go to volume mode and use this to create the particles inside it. They will be regular, so you need to randomize their positions using one of the modifiers. And of course, what we're going to do, and I'm going to do it here as well, is go to emission, shoot. So you only have one shot of particles. Let's put 10,000 without any velocity. And there you go. We have this sphere full of particles, right? That's fantastic. So I'm just going to show it with the, something. Why not? Let's just use this sphere, right? There you go. So we have a container, an object full of particles. Excellent. In the meantime, just to make sure, Hello Studio already did it. Preface your questions with capitalized word question, and so I can see them easier in the comment section. Let me bring up the comments over here. Fantastic. So realistic ocean noises. We won't touch upon that today. This is quite a big list, and I don't want to overrun too much. So let's begin with this particular setup. We have these particles now, and I'm going to extend this to say 900 frames. And we want to set some initial temperature in this particular case, or something like that. Now, here's an abstract way to think about parameters, right? We know that temperature in nature is that the atoms that uh, are making up the object are sort of wiggling around at higher speeds, the atoms or the molecules or something like that. Between the two, I think it's one of the two. So it's that's what temperature is. What we are going to do, I'm going to go to the particle group and create some handles here. And what we are going to do here is use the spin parameter to encode what we want to call temperature. And these particles currently are generated and they're not spinning, they're not moving, they're not doing anything else. And this is the initial particle group. So, what I want to do with these particles is, first of all, I want to set some sort of temperature spin, right? Whenever I say temperature, I'm going to translate it into spin. The faster the particle is spinning, I will assume that they have a higher temperature, right? And that's because I need to hijack one of the attributes, one of the parameters, which you can find them if you go to the cache, open this, and you can see these are the various parameters. Or if you create any modifier, let's say the math modifier, and you can see the various properties here. So we are going to get one of the properties which, unless you're cloning something that has a defined shape, the spin is not going to be used if you do fluid simulation or something like that. Now, let's go here and create, and I'm going to switch to my particle setup. So I have my particle layout. I have all these nice little buttons over here. I'm going to use a field condition. And the reason I'm going to use a field condition is that I just want to create a field, and any of these particles in that field, I want them to start doing something. So I'm going to use a linear field. I'm going to put in plus y. I'm going to make it very narrow, and I'm going to bring it up just to make sure that it sort of just grabs a few of these particles here. So select the linear field, and let's say these are the particles I'm interested in. There you go. And I can drag this outside. I don't need it to be there. I can play with a tolerance if I wish to. And what I want to do to these particles over here is sort of spin them around. So I'm adding what I call temperature. So to spin them, you use the spin modifier. And they're going to start spinning. And I want to add speed to them. So they're going to start cold, so rotating or spinning slowly, and they're going to increase. So the add speed is the best way to go. Let's begin with a value of 10 degrees per second. It's going to add 10 degrees per second. And let's go and see what this is going to do. Any particles that are within that threshold are going to start spinning. Okay, and they accelerate and accelerate and accelerate, accelerate, accelerate and so forth. So they are getting hotter, so to speak. And what I want to do now is, first of all, I want these particles to transfer part of that rotation to any particles by proximity. So essentially, I'm transferring the heat in the form of a spin to various particles. So the more the other ones start to spin, it's going to spin more and more, just like temperature spreads through a medium. And for that, I'm going to use a blend modifier. Now, the blend modifier allows us, amongst other things, to blend parameters of all the particles that exist in our scene, or any group you have it in here. And what I want to do is get the angular velocity. Angular velocity is measuring the speed, and let's leave it to x, y, z. And with a radius of 10, I want to transfer the strength. We're going to play around with these things. But if I leave it at normal, then the slower particles are going to try to slow down because their spin is 0. They're going to try and slow down these ones, and the high particles are going to try and accelerate the other one. So we have that a bit of a contradiction. What I need to do is blend them using max. So it's only going to use the maximum value. So between two particles that are being blended, their parameters being blended, the one with the maximum is going to affect the other one and not the other way around. So now you will see that this sort of rotation, it's starting now to go downwards. Watch this. It's going to spread and spread and spread and spread, and these are going to go faster, and more of them are going to spin around. So already we have a way to transfer some sort of parameter, some sort of infection. And by changing the strength and changing the radius, we can control the speed this parameter change propagates through the system. You can see it's going slowly, 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 and so forth. Now, The initial part of the setup is this. This creates the propagation. Now the question is, what what else can I do if I want to change group? Well, what I can do here is compare. So I'm going to get a condition for this initial group. And any particle that exceeds a specific spin has reached a certain temperature. We want to change its group because that way we can put it in a group and do something with it. I don't know. No, maybe some gravity, make move it around or something like that. If we did have fluid simulations, it will be included in the group that would have the fluid simulation. So you go to the angular velocity magnitude because that's what we want, the speed, and see if it's greater than, and let's say 360 degrees per second. And then we'll just switch group when this threshold has been met. And here we create a group because this is the hot group. There you go. So these are the hot particles. I can go here and just turn them to a constant red dot. And let's see what this is going to do now. They're slowly switching. The ones that are accelerating more and more and more and more and more are going to go to the other group, but I would need to put the blend here. Let me see what this is going to do when they spin beyond a certain degree. I want to make sure I'm not making any mistakes. Oh, I said XYZ. This is the blend. Excellent. And the condition here, they're not going fast enough to switch to the other group. Let me see how I dealt with this, sorry, earlier. So field condition spin, condition angular velocity magnitude is greater than 120. Then they switch and my blend is over here. That's why I need to leave my blend over here. Rewind and let's see what this is going to do. They're switching. Maybe I just need to increase the radius a bit, get more particles spinning at higher speeds. And let's get the spin, add spin a bit higher. Let's put 60 and watch these migrate. They're not spinning fast enough. Maybe. So angular velocity magnitude, that's correct. And they need to, let me put this at a lower threshold and see if it's an issue with the threshold itself or the amount I'm adding to these. Rewind and blend. Yeah, I expanded the radius. I've set it to max. What am I doing wrong here? I'm doing something. The blend is max. Good. It's going to take the maximum value. I'm comparing. Well, this is real time. All right. I'm adding speed. The speed is it doesn't appear to be adding. So why are they not spinning up as fast as I want them to? 100% angular velocity XYZ. I've done that correct. Blend, angular velocity XYZ, 100%, and the radius. Good. It's max. So these should be accelerating. I may have done some mistake with my group, so hang in there with me. The condition is greater than 120. So I'm going to do the same values because I was playing around with these values. The condition is greater than 120. Let me rewind. When you switch scenes, the particle simulation stops. And all right, so we got that. One thing I'm thinking about is because these particles are oriented in different ways, maybe there's a discrepancy because they're pointing in different axes. So maybe I just need to set these to an axis. So they're all standing up, and my axis is going to be local y. There you go. They're not just accelerating enough. What have I done? What have I done wrong here? My threshold could be my threshold. So it's some sort of combination of my threshold. They were not reaching the appropriate temperatures. So now I can go and change a bit my radius and all that kind of stuff, or increase my spin a bit. And now you see it. So apparently, what was happening is something the threshold. How much threshold did I have here? I'm curious. I had 50%, but the setup was different. Maybe the particles were a bit denser. Maybe I had more particles. Um, and now they're not. They were doing it a second ago. Well, this is embarrassing. Adding speed, blend. I got a good radius. It should be speeding up. Initial. These are the hot particles. Switch group to hot when it's greater than 100. Oh, at least that we know that they're reaching those thresholds. So it's a matter of values at the end of the day. There you go. It's going on. There you go. And the temperature propagates. Now you can continue down, and apologies for the brain freeze, but there are quite a few of these parameters that are involved. And let's go back to this and show you what were the other thing I did. So the hot particles, it kept them spinning. So but by adding more speed to them, because I just wanted them to have a certain temperature. And when that temperature then exceeded this another value, another threshold, when they got too hot, then they would be transferred to a group that's cooling down, and I gave them some negative spin. So essentially, you can stack this um, with various, let's say, temperature coefficients. So they're getting hot after a certain degree. Now, the good thing is that then you can take the spin rate and you can map it to colors. So this flipping from one group to the other, which is abrupt, you can actually use the more smooth gradient of the value itself to colorize these appropriately, so that with a certain spin comes a certain color. And let me just try it. And if I fail, I failed. So let's get a, not a data mapper, but a color mapper. So there's my color mapper here. And let me put it in the hot particles, just for the hot. And we have them. I'm going to go to hot particles and turn this off. And let's see that we're going to have sort of hot particles are going to be blue, because that was the color of those particles, and the end of the particles. I'm going to say when the angular velocity is between and I need the magnitude 0 and it's not 0 when they enter this, they should be 120. So between 120, and they exit when they are 600. So 120 to 600 degrees. I want them to uh, change to this color here. So let's see if that's going to do. And there you go. You can create sort of a gradient with these colors, and you can apply a similar thing up there as well. So you can create this, and your hot group is this. You tell these to do whatever you want them to do, and the original group is this. And then if you want to cool them down to sort of freeze them, put um, some sort of friction or something like that. Okay, so this would be a method to transfer parameters by hijacking something. And again, sorry for the mix up here, but I had to get my parameters dialed in for this particular setup. That's why I always showed in the same setup you originally planned. And yeah, this is this setup over here. I'm going to leave it here for the time being. Let me check out a few of the questions and see if I can go to one of these things. Show my face here. Hello, I'm still here. So now, there's one question. I don't know if I can fully answer this. How do I work in After Effects with renders from cinema, when in ACES, linear gamma, and so forth? We prefer, I'm going to ask you: have you watched the full After Effects and color management tutorials that Lionel Visidomini did? Please go to the Max and Training Team channel and search for. Um, I think he did a whole month for the Create with Maxon, or maybe back then it was called Demystifying Post Production. But there's a lot of information there. if for any reason you don't get your answers through those series, through that series of videos, then you can always contact me on Twitter or Jonas. Mine is at NosemanGR and Jonas at Jonas Pills 3D. And if you have an example or something like that, it will be very, very helpful. So let's go down to the how to make realistic ocean noises. Just put noises on top of each other, and you will do that with a displacement. If you have any uh, other particular thing, again, contact me and we can talk about that. Michael, good afternoon. So for everyone, good afternoon, everyone. Michael is in Germany, I think. Now, there are some very specific questions. Gradient node or scalar value gradient, a gradient node is used to adjust the texture. Do you need to change the color scale interpolation to linear? Can you do a simplified file so I can understand exactly what you mean by this? These are very good, easy questions to answer if you post DM me on Twitter and send me a very simplified file. The only the things that are necessary, because then I can look at the file and see exactly what you're talking about. So let's go to another one I have. Okay, so there is one here which is fairly simple. So I would just copy and paste it. Let me go here and go to my banners and paste this in and add the banner. Right. So we can't see the whole thing. I would love to have clarification. I would love to have some clarification regarding C4D deformers. In my case, I'm using a spline wrap deformer applied to an object that has soft plastic and hard metal in it. And the rest of the question is, um, how can I leave the metal objects undeformed and the plastic objects deformed? This is fairly simple. I presume you may not have worked a lot with the deformers, but I'm going to deal with it. So let's assume we have these two objects here, and this is what you're trying to create. And let's say it's part of a group; it's part of a whole object, and you want this to be able to bend, but this not to be affected. Well, the simple answer is you only apply the deformer, whatever deformer is, only in this object. If your objects are a consolidated object, so if these here were connect objects and delete, if that's the case for something like this, then you can use the restriction tag. In the rigging, there's something called the restriction tag. And in the restriction tag, which you apply to the deformer, not to the object, you can go and make your selection here. You can create a store selection. So this is storing this selection. And if you go and apply whatever deformer you want, it's not just for the spline wrap. If I take any deformer and apply it to this, by definition, this is going to apply to all objects. Okay. And let me just align it properly. So we're going to get something close to a reasonable result. So assuming I want to, there you go. And in this particular case, what I assume is that we don't want to touch the cube and we don't want to touch, oops, I'm moving the wrong thing. We only want to touch this. And let's assume that it was this way because I can just take it out. Right, there you go. This would be a setup where I don't want the cube to be touched. Well, go to the bend deformer and add that restriction tag. And the restriction tag, yeah, it works with polygon selections, with point selections, and with vertex maps. So this way you have a single object, and you can apply it to a selection of polygons and so forth. So that's it. Let me go back to the questions here. We're going to deal with this as well with some AOVs. Go back to the comments. Hello, Sharon. Kenobi asks, does a red part, is a red part dissolving? No, it wasn't dissolving. I was just showing how to mimic the propagation of heat, for example, to particles. And when you exceed a threshold, you change the group. What you're going to do with that later on, it's a different story. So that's what I was showing. Um, Let's see. 1 second. Okay, so let's go to the questions again. I'm going down, and all right, this is an interesting one. I'm going to copy, go over here. It's a bit fiddly to add various banners and show them. So save, show. What? So what would you have to do to so letters made of smoke, but with a certain sense of self-driven movement along the letter surface. I assume, I can only assume, is something like this, where we have a smoky text and the only smoke that appears to be moving is on the surface, just like this. It's all made of smoke, but this is what I'm gonna show an overview of. It's quite simple. Let me just get. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna copy this in a new document and try again to do something that will fail because where's the fun in doing everything correctly? So let me right click here. Let me get rid of this, and I'm gonna add a pyro emit. This will create fire and smoke and all the beautiful stuff associated with that. Let's extend this. And I do not want temperature. So let me close this. I do not want temperature. I just want smoke. There you go. So here's my smoke. And of course, it's got some buoyancy because we have gravity. So let's get rid of the gravity. Let's just go simulation. Let's go to scene and let's get rid of gravity. And now the smoke is not going to be doing anything. Now, what I'm going to do to this is I want to minimize the amount of density that's generated because now it's creating quite a bit of it. And you can play around with this to get the amount of smoke you want. And let me turn off this object and even less, even less. Now, if you want the smoke to sort of dissipate more, we can change that amount of dissipation. So the simple solution would be to add some sort of turbulence to this. And this is going to move the smoke around, providing I go and increase the value a bit. So you will see that the smoke is starting to move. I can scale this up to create uh, bigger noise. There you go. So it's moving. Now, because this is getting quite dense, the simple solution would be to go to your project settings, go to Pyro, and increase the amount of dissipation so to make the smoke disappear earlier. So if you go down to density, if you close everything here, density, you can set this to let's say 15 and this to 0.1. And because the smoke is dissipating, now you can emit a bit more smoke to this because it is going to vanish. But because everything is moving, the only thing that appears to be moving is the stuff on the surface. But if you don't want to go this way, the other thing you could do is instead of using a turbulence, you can go a bit more complex with a setup like this. And what I'm going to do is, just for the sake of it, I'm going to make a copy of this. And I'm going to take this and put it under a volume builder. I'm going to set the volume builder to a vector volume. And as we've shown in many tutorials, what you can do here is you can go and add a random field, and you need to do certain adjustments. You need to select the random field, and you need to set it objects below, and we're going to cross it. And the cross basically just turns these 90 degrees. So this is going on the surface. And you can go to this noise and change the type of noise, change the scale, add a bit of animation. You can see these little things moving around. Once uh, this vector volume is generated, what you could do is create a field force. And the field force itself accepts volumes, so a volume object. And you can just add to velocity or set absolute velocity or something like that. I can set this to 50. We'll see how that comes out. And always make sure that interpolation is of a certain type. And let's increase this to 150. Sometimes what you need to do is remap this noise, enable remapping, and go to direction and normalize it. And now this noise is only happening on the surface. You can see these are moving. By making your noise in here a bit smaller, you're actually controlling how big these are going to be. That's one of the things you can do. You can change this, and then it's all about tweaking your parameters. Maybe you need less smoke to be generated, but it's constantly generating. So the inside is not going to fill. And because our dissipation is quite high, the smoke disappears after it moves away. If you want to increase that value, you do this, but it will always disappear after a certain amount of time. And of course, you can make this higher resolution. Let me stop this rewind, go here. Let's set this to voxel size 2. Let's set this to voxel size 2. So we have a comparable. I can make this invisible. Um, Now we're going to see it's going to go slower, but we're going to get much more detailed smoke. So yeah, this would be a way to do this. The field force, the amount of that dictates how much these are going to move. But essentially, it's just moving, so to speak, only the surface. And the amount, if you want to know how much of this is going to move, if I rewind here, the volume builder, when you use an object to create a vector volume, it has this control here that says, how do I create those vectors? Sign distance field with interior voxel range 2 and exterior 2 means it's going to create a sign distance field from the mesh with a padding of 2 in the outside and 2 in the inside. And the inside is going to be negative and the outside is going to be positive. So if you want to make the effect a bit thinner, you just change these thresholds here. And you may be able to put this, no, 1 is minimum, so you can't do what I wanted to do. So now you're going to get a thinner veneer of moving smoke. And again, it's just playing around the various parameters, creating a different amount of density, but this will create some sort of smoky text where only the outside is moving. I think this needs to be smaller. It's going to create nice, fine little noises. And that's how you do that. Let me close this. And let me check the chat. So go to the comments and see. Let's see. Let me mark these. Which tell me what you mean if that is a question or something like that. And let's see. Yeah, Hello Studio. Yeah, this is one of those more complex things. Chocolate bar up rips off and opens for the chocolate to be. This is just I would guess, a cloth setup. But if you want it to be like aluminum foil, then it becomes much more difficult, or paper. If you want automated tearing, then you can use cloth. But if you want something more controlled, it's not a straightforward thing we can show in a few minutes. I apologize for that. Let's see here. I'm going to read it as it's over here. I'm making bubbles with an emitter in Cinema 4D using a sphere with displacer and smooth modifiers, but all bubbles replicate the same noise pattern from the displacer. So it looks. You need to post. So simplify the scene and send it in a direct message, because unless I see it, I don't know what the problem would be. And let me go down the question list. Let's see. Oh, this is an interesting one. So everyone's going to love this. And this one, I need to go to banners. I need to create a new banner. I need to paste and add the banner and then click to show it. There we go. How can I make a volume material glow? No matter where I touch it, it doesn't glow. First of all, never touch the volume, right? You can burn your fingers. And let me show you what that looks like. Boop and boop here. And this is what this looks like, okay? This is a volume and we have a certain glow and so forth. And I'm pretty sure some of you are going to find this extremely useful because I don't know if we covered it in many series. So we do have a shader, a redshift material called Pyro Volume. And by definition, this would be Although you can use a normal Pyro, sorry, a volume shader, so the standard volume here with the various parameters. You can use it as well, but I prefer the Pyro Volume. Now, the Pyro Volume is nothing more than the old standard volume, but with pre-populated density and temperature. Okay, so watch this trick. I'm actually going to use standard VDB volumes, volume builders, to build a complex volume that has more than one channels, right? Because I'm going to use one channel as smoke density and the other one as temperature or fire or whatever you want to call it, heat. So let's call this density. And I'm going to show you the tricky part. The tricky part is you need to create a sphere and put it as a child, right? That's very hard. Make sure that you use fog volumes. Whenever you are using any kind of volume builder to use it to render stuff, if you want to make your own clouds and all that, always, always, always use a fog volume, okay? Don't use an SDF. I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Cheers, everyone. So and then select your object. And if you want to make it look nice and thicker in the middle and thinner on the sides, make sure you set maximum voxel fall off. There you go. So this is going to create a gradient that goes all the way in and creates this little sphere. Now I'm going to go to my redshift. Here is it around here? My redshift. Let me just go and bring up the redshift render view. Excellent. And let me dock this here. I'm going to drag an HDR so we can see at every step what's going on. If you drag an HDR here, it's going to create a dome light. I can turn this off, and I'm going to turn this on. Now, when you're working with volumes, sometimes, just sometimes, if it doesn't immediately update, you just do this. Now, in this case, there's nothing to update because we haven't set anything up yet. So let me fold this down. I have this volume, and it's called density. Now I want to create another volume that allows me to create, let's say this, I'm going to create that band of emissive color in here. So I want another volume here, which I'm going to call, I don't know, a light, or you can name it anything, right? You can name it emission, right? And again, it's a fog volume. But what I'm going to do here, just to make it more interesting, I'm going to put a linear field in because I want to control that emission using the linear field. I don't have to. I'm going to multiply it. If I turn this off, you see it's multiplying. And what I'm going to do with this linear field now is make it narrower. You can see it's multiplying. So this 0 is making this disappear, whereas here it's creating gradient. And at the same time, I'm going to go and remap this little linear field using my curve. You can see the slope here. It's doing this slope in terms of values. I'm just going to take this and put it at the approximately the 0.5 and make another copy here. So now the values, as the field progresses, go up and down. So I get this sort of fog volumetric gradient, right, where it's denser in the middle and lighter on the two sides. So I have these two volumes here. Now, the question is, what do I do to consolidate these two things into a single volume? And the answer is extremely simple. As of a few months ago or a year ago or something, the amazing developers at Maxon implemented volume combination using the connect object. I'm going to call this my lovely multi-volume. And you drag these underneath here. This is now a volumetric object, right? This is a volume. You can move this around. It's it's not moving that, but anyway. Oh yeah, because what's happening here with my sphere? Do I need to update this? Anyway, I don't know why this is happening, but we'll see what happens with the render. And let's bring up Redshift render. And now I'm going to drag this over here. And what I'm going to do to make this work is I need to adjust the naming of these volumes. so that density, it reads it because it's already density. If I call this 123, we should lose that volume. And you need to go preset my lovely multi-volume 123, which is my density. And the same way you go to the temperature and you say my lovely volume emission is the emission. Now, if it doesn't update, you click on that and now we can see the light. And that's it. Now you can use a black body radiation. The way I understand this, is that the 6500 Kelvin temperature that this has is equivalent to a value of 1 with the volume. I think, I'm not absolutely sure, but I think that's the case. There are many ways to change this. You can increase the scale, and this will brighten up that thing. What else I can do? I can make my sphere larger, so we're going to get sort of an extension of what's going on over there. Oh, fantastic! Huh, it froze for a second. Don't freeze. Oh, congratulations! Sorry about that. Let me put my face up here. Yeah, I was. I've got too many instances of Cinema 4D open up. Maybe I shouldn't do this when I'm doing a live show. Let me just run it again and bring up the final file. Oh, I think Marco's here. Hello, everyone. And let me go and load that particular one. Fantastic. So I've got everything here, and I'm going to go to the volume glow. There we go. Bring up Redshift again. Excellent. And this is what I was trying to do, basically. And I added a random field and so forth. So basically, the field controls the where this emission is going to occur. So you can create these halos and all that. And the material, not only the material, you can actually go to your fog object and multiply the fog. And this will allow the values to be higher, so you can make it warmer or colder or stuff like that. So there's an enormous amount of stuff you can do here in terms of creating these glows. But that's how you. But the secret here is that the volume object allows you to consolidate multiple grids and create a multi-grid volume that can be used with in the same way that you use the Pyro volumes. Oh my God, I'm not showing the screen. It's happened again. So let's do this again. Hello, everyone. Yeah. Is anyone? No one said we can't see your screen. You trust me too much, right? Don't trust me too much. Right. Let's do this. Okay. Is everyone still there? Can someone please post? Unless I don't know if the stream crashed or anything like that. Yes, I did. I did want everyone to see my face, right? I did want to. All right, so okay, let's do this. If Sharon's here, okay. So this is the final setup I did, where I got my oddity there, and what I was showing here is that the secret, as I said, is that you can use a volume object to consolidate any number of grids, uh, preferably of the same type, fog in this particular case, and use them as if they are multi grids that come from a Pyro. You can use one for color. You can use and if you want color, you are not going to create a fog volume. You're going to create a vector volume. So there's a ton of stuff you can do with this implementation. In this particular case, let me show you what I have here. I have that randomness that creates that little noise around this. And in this particular case, I'm multiplying my fog by zero point 0.3. I chose not to use the value here. I've set this to 1, so I can just play in my object manager, not have to go in the material. So you can tell this particular fog volume by multiplying it or doing whatever you want to be of less intensity or more intensity and so forth. And again, you can take the random field here. You can remap it using a curve to do all sorts of interesting things. make it look less intense or more intense, or bring this down, and come on, do something interesting. There you go. You can create all sorts of weird noises here. And I'm using this to multiply. So you can add animation to this. As it already has animation, it's going to create noise. But as you can see, there's a lot of stuff you can do using this implementation. Okay, let me close this. Doom. Oh, this is the same file. Doom. Okay, I promise I'm not going to forget other things. When I promise, don't believe me. All right, let me check the comments. Holy moly, time flies. A friend of mine, whenever I said, "Oh, mine, time flies," he says, "Time, we're 50 plus years old." Yeah, time does fly. Now, let's see. Let's go back here. I don't want to miss any questions. Um, let's see here. Okay, simple emitter, use same displacement modifier. Yeah, I'm DM me, Ahmed. Yeah, I'm not in that headspace right now. Um, bend a pyro tornado moves align to spline. I would deform the object that's generating the pyro. That would be, or at the same time, use the field force with that object to create um, the spinning. I'm not going to show the whole thing, but I want to give you an idea of what I mean. So let's get a cone. Let's invert it. Let's get rid of the caps. Let's turn on these so we can see what's going on here. And let's add a bit more um, fidelity to this. Let's assume that this is your sort of your cone where you're going to emit from. And then you can display, you can deform this in a certain way. Let's go here. Let's create a deformation, and let's put an let's do a deformation of spline wrap and put it here, and we want it on the plus Y, and drag the spline in here so we get the opposite. So there you go. So you can animate that, and then you can potentially use this in a volume builder and create a vector volume. And this vector volume, then you would go and cross it with maybe some noise, and then use this in a field force to create a rotational vector field that moves these around. You may need to do other adjustments as well, but that will be sort of the gist of it. Okay. Let's see. Is there any settings? Or when I'm talking, I'm going to put my face here as well. Displaying. Is there any settings for fire display and viewport? The previous looks so better than this one. Well, that was just smoke. If you create a simple fire, I think it looks pretty good. Pyro emitter. I think that's decent. Yeah, I was just using density. Maybe that's what you missed. Okay. Jami, it didn't crash, just a glitch. Um, let's see. Yeah, everyone thinks I'm explaining. No, I will look at the camera and do all sorts of Greek person gestures when I'm doing that. Please remind me. I'm a bit scatterbrained sometimes. Okay. Let's see here. What else do we have? Sorry, I'm just checking out questions. Okay, now I can go to the spreadsheet questions because there's nothing I can reply to right now. I gave you the form. There was a question about how to get the tutorials from Cineversity. All right, this is the next one here, which is about AOVs. Hopefully, it's going to provide some sort of answer. So let me just paste this here, press enter, and show the banner. Rendering a beer bottle in Cinema 4D using Redshift and creating custom AOVs for the label with the store color to AOV node. The bottle has additional geometry for condensation and so forth. And the problem is that those droplets hide what's going on. So I have a file already prepared for this. And that is, it's not in that folder. It's in this folder. And it's logo AOV. There we go. So let's go to Redshift. And let me render the beauty, right? And this is just a logo of a very famous and extremely good looking and smart person that knows a few things. And I've just created two materials, the logo and some water. And the water is nothing more than a displaced surface that's on the same spot. So anything that goes up seems like droplets. Anything that goes down looks like nothing. And what I've done in the logo material is I've inserted a store color to AOV, and I've used the logo, and I've named it logo AOV. Excellent. And when I go to Redshift and AOV Manager, it's over here. Now, let me put this to the side. If I go to do the logo AOV, this is the problem the user is asking about. And that's because the object itself is obscuring. There's no, by definition, so if you open here, by default, the custom AOVs do not take into account reflections and refractions. So what you need to do is go to the secondary ray visibility of the custom AOV and do refraction transparency or reflection or both. Refraction transparency would be the best solution for this particular case. Now, again, if it doesn't update, just click on this button and there you go. The difference in tone, it makes sense because here I don't have the water. The water is not 100% transparent. It's 94% transparent. So we're losing 6% of brightness because of the absorption of the material. And if you want this to do any color correction, you will require that in order for everything else to be overlaid on top. So yeah, this is it. Just a single click. Make sure, I'm not sure which AOVs support this, but just look around this area and make sure that if you want transparency, reflection, refraction to be taken into account somewhere here for each AOV, you will see the button that does that. Excellent. So I have a question which I'm not sure I understand it, but it may be just a little misunderstanding. And the question is, why does thinking particles not support new rigid body simulation? Now, I'm inclined to ask why use thinking particles, but because a lot of people have already setups and like to use it and so forth. I'm going to show you, I think it does, depending on what you're trying to do, right? So I don't know what the setup is and what's going on. So let me bring up another file, which is called rigid bodies and so forth. So what I'm doing here is I have a mesh sphere. I have just the p matter waves, the simplest way to create thinking particles, and the sphere dropped in here. So it's going to create particles on the surface of the sphere. And I'm cloning the all group, right? In case you didn't know how to bring it up, go legacy, TP settings, create a cloner, set it to object mode, and drag whatever group you want in here. And this will clone things. So in this particular case, I'm cloning spheres on the particles, and I've just got a rigid body here, and it works. There you go. So I'm not sure exactly what the issue is. If it's something else, just let me know, and I can provide a bit more information. Let's check the comments. Okay. Oh, how to DM me. At Noseman GR, I posted it earlier. Ahmed, you're not paying attention. So go watch. I'm going to put them back again. Find me on Twitter at Noseman GR. That's me. Jonas Pills 3D is Jonas Pills. So let's go. Question here. Can we use Pyro for liquid sim? Well, yeah, I made some sort of quasi tutorial once or presentation or something like that. The idea is that although you won't get something, extremely accurate, it is interesting nonetheless. Let me just show you very quickly here, just in case you haven't seen it. Right click and add a pyrometer. You can do it with other things as well. And I don't want temperature. What I'm going to do is just create density. And you need to set the settings to be different. So you need the density to fall downwards. And by definition, in Pyro, there is negative buoyancy. It goes against gravity. But if I set this to, let's say, 20, now my density is going to fall down, just like a liquid, as you can see. Now, the other thing is you don't need, you shouldn't have dissipation because liquids do not dissipate. So go to density and set the dissipation for both these parameters, absolute and relative to 0. So now any amount of fluid that's going to be created is going to go down. Just to make this a bit more interesting, I'm going to use a plane, I'm going to slightly rotate it, and I'm going to make it a collider because I want my Pyro to collide with this, but I'm going to hide it because I don't want to see it. And now it's going to sort of bounce off and move that way. And now, because this is a volume, I can turn on the density, nothing else, and I can put this under a measure. So you put it under a volume measure, you control your threshold, and now you have a quasi liquid thingy going on. I can even hide this. Oh, I go and go to my Pyro settings, go down here and not draw Pyro. So there you go. You have a quasi liquid simulation. You can do some interesting stuff, motion graphic stuff and whatnot. Yeah, this looks like a monster from a video game. Yep. So that will be the method. So let's go back to the questions. Um, how to this will be in how to break custom wall into bricks. I can ruin and animate the build up with MoGraph. Um, yeah, there is a technique where you can create not bricks exactly, right? If you want bricks, then you make it up of using MoGraph. So let me close this and let me close this. So you would get your brick, and usually a brick is 20 by 5 by 10. This will be the size of a brick. And you just use MoGraph to stack this up, and then you can just animate what's going on. So I'm going to create a single line of these at 21, and you can extend this like this. You can always stagger them as well using a honeycomb array. You just need to make sure that this is quite small. So 20 and 10, I think that's pretty much, is it 10 or half? There you go. So let me do this. So it's half. And there's your brick wall. Now you can add more up and down. And then you make them, it depends how you want to build it. Do you want to scale them? Do you want to do whatnot? This is standard MoGraph stuff. You can scale it, uniform scale, and put it -1. That will make it 0 size, and then put a field in here and make it smaller. And you can sort of build this up using the field. Let's get rid of the color, no color. And now this field here, you animate it and you allow it to build your wall. But you can do it with visibility. You can do it with all sorts of things. But you can build stuff this way. Hope that gives you a pathway forwards. Okay. Protection tab messes my camera movement. How to protect moving camera from me nudging it? How to protect moving camera from me nudging it by accident? I don't know why the protection tag messes up your camera movement. If you have a protection tag, the camera shouldn't move. Yeah, I don't. If you can ask the question a bit differently. Let's see. Let's see this. I don't know if I can answer this, but let's try it. I want to use the basic C4D particle and Pyro combination. Could you give me an idea? The basic C4D particle and Pyro combination. Hundreds of spheres on the floorboards turn into long beams of light or long. That's a bit too too complex. Let's break it down. Post on the question, but smaller chunks, please. This is a whole project. We can dedicate a couple of hours in doing these things. As far as a general, you know, let's go with the standard particles, and you can just get a legacy emitter and just add a pyro emitter, and this will emit pyro. You can do it with thinking particles, and you can do it with a new particle system and so forth. So I guess, yeah, you can do it. You can start this way. So let's see what else. How to apply in a custom wall. Well, I don't know how the wall was built, but if you want to break things into bricks, you need to have the bricks. You have to get your custom wall and build it up first using the components. So that's going to take some significant stuff, unless you mean something else, which I don't understand. You can use a Voronoi fracture on a model, and then just the Voronoi fracture itself. If this is your wall, they won't be bricks, by the way. You can make them squares or something like that. You can add a Voronoi fracture to this, and let's go here. Yeah, add a Voronoi fracture. Put it under a Voronoi fracture. But in the Voronoi fracture, in case you didn't know, the point generation, you can replace it with, let's say, a matrix object. So you can go here and drag a matrix in here. I'm going to set my matrix to be upright, so 40 and 40 and 1. And what this is going to do is allow you to create something like this. You can't create offset bricks using the Voronoi fracture, unfortunately. But these now are little blocks of little squares. And this is a MoGraph object. So you can do exactly what I did earlier with a MoGraph object and go to scale and do uniform scale and make it -1 again, and then put a field in here and do this and do the same thing. But that all starts with a cube. But you can't do offset one. You can't offset the bricks. So it depends on what your custom wall is all about. Oh my God, it's past 12. All right, let's continue here. What's the best way to make a dynamic chain and connect it to a rigged human? Well, a custom chain is fairly simple. And if I'm going to use a torus, right? Let's scale it down a bit, and let's make this thinner. Right, let's get MoGraph cloner. Let's set this to be upright. So plus Z, there you go. And the cloner, I'm going to set this, the easy way is to put it on linear. There you go, linear, right? And I want these to intersect somewhere around the middle over there. Now, let's say we have a bunch of these, and I want these to rotate. You can see, you can rotate them enough so 90 degrees. So it's going to be 90 degrees one to the other. And then you can get another torus, and you can bring it up, and you can rotate it like so. You can make the ring radius bigger and move it up, and you can make this a collider object. So let's go simulation, collider object, and then here you can make this a rigid body. So simulation tags, a rigid body. I think it's best to put it on triangle mesh or convex hull or something of that matter. And this should be your chain. Increase this 900. So this is how you make a chain essentially. And then you have to do is make sure that object is pinned to anything you want. Oh, and I broke it. I need more iterations. But in any case, this will be the way to do this. Okay. Let's see here. Once you've animated the camera, placing a protection tag on it freezes it, right? Well, yeah. So if you want it animated, what is the point of the protection tag? Because if you have keyframes, then even navigating through that camera, it's going to be the keyframes are going to take over. So I have this camera, and let me go and sort of animate it, right? Oh, come on. There we go. And I'm going to animate it, I guess, from here. So let's go here, from here to frame 90 to here. There you go. Good. So we're viewing through the camera, and let me create an object as well to make this a bit more interesting. Let's create some sort of far away cube so the camera can see the cube, I guess, something like this. There we go, we can see it, and the camera is sort of moving in, and let's make another cube here. So we have always cubes to see. There you go. If I've got this camera that is keyframed, now the rotation is not keyframed. So if I rotate it, the values for rotation are going to change, but look at the position values. The minute I move it, it's going to pop back to its original value. If you want to make sure that the rotational values stay the same, undo, and redo. I undid the camera. That's what I did. I was pressing Control-Shift-Z. Then put keyframes on this. So now you can't, you can rotate it, but the minute you advance your frame, it's going to move. So this is a temporal solution. Just one set of keyframes that will always make sure the camera is facing this that direction. And you change these, you can navigate around to do something. Oh yeah, great. And then the minute you click, it resets back to the original view. Hopefully that sort of helps. Okay, let's see. Yep, exactly. And this way, you add the keyframes, and even if you do fiddle with it, and if you want to, the keyframes are going to return it to its original position for that frame. It's equivalent to the protection tag. The only difference is that you can move it around temporarily, and when you update your timeline, it's going to return to that. Let's see if we have running low on time. Let's go to one of the questions. Another question would be interesting. Okay. Question about spin modifier. All right, I want to answer this very quickly. I think I have my file here, spin modifier. So the question basically here was, let's go to spin modifier, spin, sorry. So the default spin of the spin modifier is when you have set speed and vector. The spin vector is the velocity direction. So because in this particular emitter, I've changed the alignment of the particle, but even if this is the original one, usually what happens is, well, usually by default, the particles direction when it's moving, by definition, or by default, we can change that, is the plus Z, okay? So we're telling this to spin around on its velocity direction. And the question was, whether I use alignment or global, it just does the same thing. It does not change. There's no difference between them. And the solution is simple. When velocity direction is the mode, the alignment and the global is the same. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. These are non-operational, so to speak, because the velocity direction is already defined. You don't need a vector space. This makes a difference if you have an axis. So if I'm rotating, so let's go back to that original emission here and set this to a certain axis. So I'm emitting this particle. As you can see, I'm emitting it, and the axis, the Z, is not pointing forwards. You can spin it in the alignment plus Z, which is that Z, or the global plus Z. Now you're going to see it's going to spin around this big green line. You can see that, whereas the alignment is going to spin it around its alignment, which alignment always means the plus Z. So this is the difference. When you're in velocity direction, these two do absolutely nothing. Maybe they need to be grayed out, but they're not. So that would be the reply to this. Okay, and let's see if we have any other questions here. There's some questions about ACEs and so forth. I'm not going to get into that. There have been quite a few series on that. And if you do, you need to be a bit more specific about those questions because it's not a simple thing. Let me give you an example, okay? Part of the question is, in compositing, I want to have a pure white background. Pure white is very hard to get unless it's a blown out white. If you're using any kind of color management system, yeah, you could, but if you just want a plain white, do it in comp with a mask. There's no reason not to do that because otherwise you will have some shading or all sorts of other things. If you want a pure color as a background, especially or a logo and all that, make an AOV and just set it to that color in post. So let's see what else we have. Oh, I think I got some today. Right now. Okay. Uh, I will deal with this over the next week. I want to see if I have any other questions because we need to close it. Let me see if I have any other questions here. Um, volume glow, smoke text, low UV, heat propagation, and so forth. So no, it's 16 minutes past the hour, and I think we're good. Uh, let's see this. So, too complicated. Can you tell me what to use to turn many spheres into pieces of cloth? I don't understand what you mean. Create, turn spheres into pieces of cloth, or so. Let me show this. It warrants a reply. Um, if you take a sphere, so this is my little sphere, and let's set it to be an icosahedron because or a hexahedron because it's better for cloth, and let's make this okay. Put it under a cloner. You have many spheres, and put a cloth or a soft body or a cloth on this. Now we have cloth made out of these spheres. Make this a collider. If this is not the question, DM me or yeah on Twitter so that with an example what you mean. So these spheres are now cloth. You just put this over here, and all this information exists on Cineversity. There's a whole series I did about cloth and cloning and all that kind of stuff. So make sure you watch all those tutorials on Cineversity. Gijong Kim, if that's what you wanted to know, just let me know. Otherwise, you can uh, find me on Twitter and send me a very simplified example so I know what you're talking about or a reference image or something like that. So, barring any other questions, okay. Well, I think we're good for today. Do not forget, check out the links at the top. I've heard from some people that the chat replay is not playing. I don't know what's going on. I do not know what's going on. But if you go up on the chat, let me get. So if you want all the information, let me copy and paste it here. If you want the information where you go to that page and it gives you the link to all sorts of cool stuff, click on that. The next thing is the code for the t-shirt. And the link to the t-shirt is in that link I sent. This is the code for the t-shirt, house of polygons or capital letters, no spaces. And yeah, keep sending the questions, and we try and deal with them as best as possible. Hopefully, you learned something today, and we'll see you on Monday. We have a very interesting month of Create with Maxon starting, where we are featuring some excellent architectural visualization artists, and I'll be hosting that. Pretty much just annoying my co-hosts and my presenters. And we're going to see some great stuff. Just check out the events page to see the details. So I guess I'll see you on Monday and then on Thursday for Ask the Trainer. Take care, everyone. Have a nice day. I need to find the button now. What I need to press. Pretend I'm not here. So I need to click on this. And where is it? Oh, is that it? In any case, bye-bye.